welcome back to another edition of Is This a Great Game or What? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian. I'm his son, Jeff Kurkjian. Dad, good to see you today.
Yeah, good to be back home, Jeff, as opposed to being in the lobby of a ski lodge at 4 o'clock in the morning with the security man asking me again, do you have a room here, or are you just a freeloader who just drops in on ski lodges to do podcasts at 4 o'clock in the morning? So
Definitely not your best recording environment, but I also recorded it outside of a Disney World resort. So don't worry. We've all had those moments where we have to do what we got to do, which is great.
Right.
So,
and Jeff, I was mildly encouraged that one of our really good listeners and contributors, Neil Aberace, I hope I pronounced that properly, when I was talking about my fear of heights, which is so bad, he wrote to me and he said, I'm 5'6", he said, and my best friend is 5'5", and we are both terrified of heights. So you are not alone. And his thinking is that since we're all built so low to the ground, that when we get too high up, that's why we get scared. Does that make sense to you, Jeff, or not?
It makes sense to me to a certain degree. I think we were only born to be close to the ground, but I'm jealous of him because I'm 5'6" and my best friend is 6'5". So talk about a counter there. Like he was the best man at my wedding. I'll be his in October, and it's like, I mean, that's so exhausting. Come on.
Yes. Well, my fear is worse than theirs, Jeff. When I used to drink High C as a kid, I'd get vertigo. It was really bad as a kid, and it's gotten worse since. So enough of the height. Now everyone knows that, I love Get Smart. I love baseball. I love sitcoms from the 60s, and I really hate height. And I love Diet Mountain Dew, and I really hate height. So that's all.
Right.
That's all you need to know about me. So that's good, and that's not much. How are you doing, Jeff?
Dad, I'm doing well. I'm getting geared up for our big event on Saturday. We have a charity event. We're doing a baseball chat with Tim and Jeff Kurkjian, and it's in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Any locals can actually check it out right now. I have a link at greatgameorwhat.com. It's also in the show notes and the description of this video. But the coolest part is, if you aren't local to the Pennsylvania area, understandably, you can always donate. We're giving all of this money, 100% of the proceeds, to Michael Brown and his family. Michael Brown is a young dad who was diagnosed with ALS. He's former college baseball catcher and a really good one at that. And this disease has unfortunately touched our family. Very, very tough. And we wanted to give back to this incredible family too, the Brown family. So if you have it within yourself to click that link and just send over a donation, there's a drop-down menu for that too, and all those proceeds are going to his family. So, and if you donate, most importantly, I will send you a link to watch the event that we put together. So,
right,
a little bit exclusive access.
Right, and the team Tim today will be a tribute to Michael Brown, just because that's our big deal on Saturday. It's I'm going to surprise you with it, Jeff, but we'll do the best we can. Okay.
So make sure right now you go into the show notes, check out that link, donate if you can, or buy tickets if you're local. It's at Soul Joel's Sunnybrook Ballroom in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. We cannot wait to see you. All right, Dad, let's jump right into the takeaways. What do you got?
Well, there's another week about Pete Crow-Armstrong, Jeff, who I've decided is the best player ever with a hyphen in his last name. And I went through all the hyphenated names, and I couldn't come up with a full team unless I used all Korean players because there are so many Korean players with hyphens. But Pete Crow-Armstrong just had another amazing week, Jeff. So he became the first player ever during a 2-game stretch that he hit 2 leadoff homers and a walk-off homer in those 2 games. So he hit a leadoff homer and then hit a walk-off homer in the same game. And then the next day, led off the game with a home run. Nobody has ever done that before. In fact, the only players who've ever, hit a home run to lead off the first inning and then hit a walk-off homer in the same game are Chris Young, 2010, and before that, Ian Kinsler, Reed Johnson, Darren Erstad, and in 1957, Vic Power. Now, according to Frank and the Elias, Vic Power is the only player to do so on the first pitch. So he hit the first pitch of the game for a home run.
That's impressive.
And then his walk-off home run came on the first pitch also, which is just because Pete Crow-Armstrong in his leadoff homer had a 1-0 count. Yes, so that's pretty cool. Just another great week for Pete Crow-Armstrong, who has moved into a virtual tie right now with Shohei Ohtani for the MVP of the National League. And this race is far from over. And Jeff, this is how the MVP race is supposed to happen. Let's watch them the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season. Let's see what they do for their team. Both teams are going to make the playoffs, but that's how I gauge is how did you finish? Where'd your team end up, and how much did you have to do with that?
He's in really good company with Vic Power because, I mean, if it had just been a leadoff single and a walk-off single, it would have been Vic Contact. But in this case, it's Vic Power, which makes sense.
Right. And Jeff, Vic Power was one of the great defensive first basemen of all time. I grew up kind of watching him, at least from a distance. My dad told me all sorts of stories about how great Vic Power was around the bag. So, all right, a couple other things, Jeff. The Cardinals second baseman JJ Weatherholt at this taping has gone 105 straight games without an error. That's the most ever by a rookie second baseman in Major League history. Just another reminder, Jeff, how good these kids are when they get here. You know, Kevin McGonigal, I mean, how good has that kid been? He's been the best player on the Tigers, and he's 21 years old. He just got to the big leagues. It's just amazing how good these kids are. And JJ Weatherholt has been the same. The record, by the way, for beyond the rookies is 186 straight games without an error by a second baseman. That was Placido Polanco. And I don't want to be too sensitive about this, Jeff, but Polanco told me once that when he plays second base, he doesn't wear a cup, a protective cup, because he felt like that got in the way of his agility around the bag, making the double play, dodging a runner who's coming to try to kill him. But he played a lot of third base, and he said, I used a cup when I played third, but not when I played second.
Not Adrian Beltre.
Yeah, Adrian Beltre played third base, Hall of Fame level, entire career, never wore a cup.
That's what did he say,
Jeff? That's what I guess I told you that before, huh, Jeff? So that's
just
good.
A couple times here on the podcast.
Right. Okay, the Brewers are really good, Jeff, and we keep talking about them and their pitching, and Logan Henderson has kind of gotten left out in that, not nationally and not by people who are really following, but this guy's got 17 straight starts, Jeff, allowing 3 runs or less. And he's essentially their third starter behind Jacob Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison. But when your third starter has gone 17 straight starts, 3 runs or less, which is the third longest such streak since they moved the mound in, or put the mound where it is now, in 1893. Only Zach Allen and Drew Rasmussen have a longer such streak than Logan Henderson. And if he's your third starter, Jeff, and you've got a loaded bullpen and you've got a team that's 5th in the league in runs scored, Brewers are pretty darn good. They've been pretty darn good for years, but they are a serious threat to the Dodgers and everyone else in baseball this year.
Another year where everyone's going to be rooting for the Brewers to make a run for it. I would love to see them win it all at the end of this year.
Right. Well, we can't root for anything, Jeff, but
they've been to the World Series. We can root for a story, and it's been too long.
Jeff, right. Understood. They've only been to the World Series once, 1982. Haven't been back since.
Right.
Had a pretty darn good team last 5 years. Yes.
These are stories we can root for.
Right.
It's all good.
I was just about ready to make a pitch for here come the Mariners. The Mariners are going to get hot, and then they lost 22-0 to the Brewers on Tuesday night. We'll get to that one in just a minute. And the last of our takeaways, Jeff, just one of my favorites, Trey Mancini, has officially retired. He's a career 263 hitter with 129 homers. He missed the entire 2020 season with cancer. He did not play in the major leagues in 24 or 25, made a comeback this year with the Angels, but recognized enough is enough and God bless him. This is a cancer survivor who came back to play in the major leagues. One of my favorite guys I've ever been around. And I'll never forget asking Buck Showalter about Trey Mancini. He just kind of laughed and he said, yeah, Trey's answer to every question was always good, good. Like, how you doing? Good, good. How'd you hit this guy? Good, good. How'd you feel at third base tonight? Good, good. So that was always Trey Mancini's answer. Just an impossibly positive guy, and that positivity took him an awful long way. So we'll miss you in the big leagues, Trey, but you'll be a huge success wherever you go from here on out.
SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, and anytime you want to go to a game, you should go to SeatGeek. I used to call the director of team travel. I used to call the traveling secretary, whatever they want to be called, KP, to try to get a seat. But on SeatGeek, I can pick my own seat and I can pick where I want to sit instead of being told where to sit.
Yeah, it's a great option. And summer is coming to an end here soon. I'm going out and finding all the day games possible, all the warm weather cities, so I could stay in this tank top. I can watch very competitive baseball. As the calendar turns into fall, I want to make sure that I get the most out of this tank top and warm weather. And SeatGeek is where I would go and get my seats.
You can use code Territory10 for 10% off your next set of MLB tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off MLB tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later.
All right, Dad, let's go into the Kurkjians. What do you have for us?
Well, you alerted me to this, Jeff, even though I was paying attention anyway. On Monday night, the Red Sox did not strike out in a game. So now twice in the last week, the Guardians did it recently, and now the Red Sox played a game and didn't strike out, which is absolutely amazing in this day and age, this strikeout era in which we're in. But the difference is all 9 starters for the Red Sox drove in a run. So the last time, it might be the only other time, but the last time that any team did not strike out and all 9 starters drove in a run was in 1949 when the Red Sox beat the St. Louis Browns 13-2. Ted Williams had a hit and an RBI in that game. Bertie Tebbetts, who I think you brought up in one of the previous podcasts, he had 3 hits that day. So 1949, 2026. No strikeouts, all 9 starters knocked in a run. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I passed you a note along that I got from my friend Jag, who's a big Red Sox fan, but also a big fan of the pod, which is pretty cool. So love that.
Right. Pretty cool. All right. Now, this was really cool, Jeff. So the Mets have not been much to talk about this year, but Carson Benge, their right fielder, had an amazing day the other day. He threw out 2 runners at the plate on consecutive plays. Throws out one guy at the plate. Next guy gets a hit. He throws out the next guy at the plate, and no relay throws involved here, Jeff. Straight from the right fielder to the catcher. So the last outfielder to have consecutive plays that resulted in an out at the plate was Rocco Baldelli in 2004. And Benge also now has an assist in 3 straight games. And the Mets had 3 outfield assists in that game. The last team to have 3 outfield assists at home plate was the 2010 Blue Jays. So that's a lot of great throwing. Agreed?
Absolutely great throwing. And I just love when we get into the throwback names there, Dad, like bringing up all those guys that had done it before. Like, you don't hear those names a lot. But who is the pitcher? You said not mentioning the Mets. Remind me, who's the pitcher that's got everybody excited for the Mets who does the jump land when he throws a strikeout?
Yeah, it's amazing. His last name is Jan, and he, I'm not sure where this is headed, Jeff, but needless to say, hitters eventually will get tired of this. And he can do whatever he wants. He's pitching in the big leagues. You strike out a big league hitter, I guess you have every right to do that. I certainly was not taught to do anything like that.
Yeah, Jeffrey Yan. It's funny that you remembered his last name in the moment, yet you named your son Jeffrey, and it took you a second to get there.
Very good, Jeff. All right, now back to Carson Benge for a minute. Again, he had 2 assists on 2 plays, okay? And he has an outfield assist in 3 straight games. So sorry, Jeff, this is so ridiculous. Dikembe Mutombo, one of the great shot blockers in the history of the NBA, the guy who used to wag his finger. He played in 80 games in 2004-2005 season, okay? And only once in that season did he have 2 assists in 1 game. And Carson Benge had 2 assists on 2 plays back to back.
Amazing.
And not once during that season did Dikembe Mutombo have an assist in 3 consecutive games, which the right fielder for the Mets had an assist in 3 consecutive games. Is that look, this is not poking fun at Dikembe Mutombo, who was a really good player, a great rebounder, a defensive stalwart, and one of the great shot blockers in the history of the league. I just love the word assist, Jeff, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the podcast also. Am I going a little too far with the basketball reference here?
No, but I think it's important to notice and take note that Dikembe really wanted to try to make it in the bigs, but he just couldn't get to that ball on the inside. When you're that big, with the ABS system, your strike zone is about 6 feet high.
Right.
So
right.
he got a lot of called strikes there.
Right. He was 7'2", but he was a great shot blocker. All right, Jeff. So last week we talked a lot about Joshua Baez, whose first 3 at-bats in the major leagues resulted in a home run. And at the taping here, and I'm not poking fun at anyone, he has gone 0 for 18 since going 3 for 3 with 3 homers. Now, Jeff, what does that prove? What does that prove? What do I talk about every podcast here? How hard the game is to play.
Very hard.
Correct?
Yeah.
Is this not just another symbol of that?
We have to recognize that. And also, it's mainly mental, this game. So if you're going up there in your head saying, man, I'm like a hero now, 3 homers, and you're trying to swing for the fences instead of getting back into your groove, it can be difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't get in his head, but I think what got into his head is these pitchers up here are really good. And I had 3 great swings that day in Chicago and not much to show for it, since I'm sure he'll get a bunch more before he's done. Speaking of a bunch more, Jeff, I told you earlier, the Brewers beat the Mariners 22-0 on Tuesday night. Now, the game was 1-0 after 5 innings, Jeff, and I was doing late night Sports Center, so I was bouncing from game to game, trying to make sure I caught everything, and I lost track of that game because I had to watch the Padres and the Diamondbacks, and I only have one TV to watch on, and I don't know how to put 5 games up there like you're going to have to teach me how to do someday. So the next time, and again, I just completely ignored that game. And then I looked when it was over, and it had gone from 1-0 to 20-0, 22-0. So the Brewers scored 21 runs in the final 4 innings of that game. And I said to myself, geez, how many teams have ever scored 21 runs in the final 4 innings of a game? So where did I look, Jeff, in my room for that piece of information?
In your closet?
On my giant box score.
That's right.
Remember,
because you have the giant box score from the Orioles-Rangers game, was it? Right?
From 2007, in which the Rangers beat the Orioles 20-3. I'm looking at the box score right now, Jeff, and the Rangers scored 25 runs in the last 4 innings of that game. So this isn't a record, but it did tie a record, Jeff, for the largest shutout in Major League history. The Pirates beat the Cubs in 1975, 22-0. Pirates got 9 runs in the first inning. And the then Indians beat the Yankees in 2004, 22-0. So Tuesday night, we made history with the tied for the largest shutout in Major League history, 22-0.
Dad, also, we have to recognize that Julio Rodriguez forgot how many outs there were when they were down big and threw the ball into the outfield, scoring a couple extra runs. I mean, at that point, I know it's insult to injury, but like that happens to major leaguers. It happens all the time. We have to remember that.
Jeff, it shouldn't happen to major leaguers, and look, I'm not going to get angry, not on this podcast, but to not know how many outs there are, I'm sorry, is just unacceptable. You have to know how many outs there are at all times in the game. Never forget Larry Walker, Hall of Famer, caught a fly ball, I think it was in Dodger Stadium, and after he caught it, he flipped it into the stands, and a little kid caught it, and then Larry Walker realized, oh my gosh, I threw the ball into the stands. So he went and took the ball away from the fan. But as soon as the fan touches it, the ball is dead. It's out of play, all that stuff. And he came back with with ball and popcorn and everything else for the kid who was upset that they'd taken the ball away. So Larry Walker did the right thing.
It's kind of funny because given that Red Sox game that had that scoreboard malfunction with outs, I mean, you can't be looking at the scoreboard as a major league player trying to see how many outs there are. You got to just know. But I mean, two kind of big out errors in the last week, I would say.
Last week, Jeff. Yeah. It happens more often than you think. All right, speaking of things that don't happen very often, I just love to watch infield double plays. So we had two grounded and double plays in the Tampa Bay Toronto game, and they were both 3-6-1 double plays. So the Toronto first baseman, Agamotto, threw the ball to the shortstop, Andres Jimenez, who threw the ball to the pitcher, Jose Soriano, not once, but twice in the same game. So that's a 3-6-1 double play, Jeff. That is a really difficult double play because the pitcher, after throwing the ball in the ground like that, has to race over, cover first base, get to the bag, and receive a really hard throw from the shortstop. Jose Soriano did it twice in the same game.
That's
3-6-1. You know, Don Mattingly told me once that, and he told this to JT Snow, that and Mattingly is one of the great first basemen, defensive ever. All right. And he used to say on that play, you don't want the pitcher to ever have to cover first base because he could get hurt and he's running at a different angle. So it's the first baseman's job, almost have to get back in time. So it's a 3-6-3 double play. And Mattingly's point was the first baseman in this case is throwing the ball to the shortstop. The shortstop is the best athlete on the field. He will catch it, kick the bag, and throw it back. You don't have to take your time and make a perfect throw to second because he's going to catch it. You got to make a decent throw to second and get back to first so the pitcher doesn't have to cover the bag. But in this case, Jose Soriano did it twice. And I talked to someone who was at the game, and he said he showed some real agility, not once, but twice. So I called Frank from the Elias. And poor Frank, I bother him so often. So poor Frank, poor Pop-Up. He was on vacation, like at the Jersey Shore, I think he was, and he didn't respond. So I called him, and I felt so terrible because he's at the Jersey Shore. And he said, Tim, I started to look this up, and it's really, really hard to do this, even for the Elias Sports Bureau. But he says, I know I went back 15 years and didn't see a 3-6-1 double play with the same people involved twice in the same game. So we're going to leave it at that this was really unusual that could happen in one game. Should I stop calling Frank? What do you think, Jeff?
No, we need Frank. But we need to get him on the payroll at this point. We're getting in trouble.
Right. Well, Frank is really great. Thank you, Frank, for coming off of the beach to look up a 3-6-1 twice in one game for me. Only I would ask for something like that.
We have poppin' colors for Mack Weldon here. I've got a little green shade. You've got a nice blue shade. And what else do you love about Mack Weldon, Kratz?
I can be head to toe with Mack Weldon. I have the underwear. I have the shorts. I have the pants. I have the socks. Obviously, we got the shirt and the jackets. But it's head to toe comfort, no matter what piece they send. I even have a belt that looks sick.
And make sure you check out Mack Weldon's AirKnit X fabric to help you out. Their lightest fabric fused with nylon mesh for maximum airflow. Skip the midday wardrobe changes. The barely there feel also keeps you feeling more dry and more fresh. You can browse that collection at MacWeldon.com. Don't sweat the heat this summer. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. Go to MacWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code FOUL. That's MacWeldon.com, code FOUL.
All right, Dad, on this date in baseball history, give it to us.
All right, on this date in 1974, Nolan Ryan lost a game 1-0 in 11 innings, and he struck out 19. It was his third 19 strikeout game of his career. He never struck out 20 in a game. Several pitchers have. Roger Clemens did it twice. Kerry Wood, Max Scherzer, and Tom Chaney did it in an extra inning game. But Nolan Ryan, that day in 1974. Now, I don't know whether to trust the radar gun here, but the hardest pitch he threw that day was 100.9 miles an hour. Okay, Jeff, that was 52 years ago. So as much as we talk about guys throwing really hard today, let's never forget that the hardest throwing pitcher of all time has to be Nolan Ryan, because who knows exactly what he was throwing back there? Who knows how reliable the radar gun was? But he threw as hard as any man alive for 25 years. That amazes you still, does it not?
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say, when you were that dominant and that good for that long, too. He pitched a long time.
Yeah, 25 years. That's just unbelievable.
It's right, no Jeff, Jim Palmer, but it's pretty darn good, I got to say.
Right. All right.
Jim Palmer won a game in 7 decades. What a guy.
Right. Jim Palmer won a World Series game in 3 different decades.
That's incredible to think about.
Let's see somebody do that again, Jeff. I don't think so. All right, 1997 on this date, the Reds became the second team in National League history to finish a 9-inning game and have no assists in the game. So they were all pop-ups, fly balls, strikeouts, caught stealings, whatever it was, but no assist. Well, it can't be a pop-up. A caught stealing, because the catcher would get an assist on that. No assist. Does that amaze you, Jeff, that there have been 2 of those in the history of the National League?
No assist? Sounds like an easy day.
Yeah. So Rafael Palmeiro, who's a very good first baseman and a great baseball player, once asked, how do you get an assist? Well, it was kind of a naive question for a guy who had a lot of them, but all you have to do is throw the ball to someone that leads to an out, and you get an assist on the play, okay? So if a first baseman wants to have a lot of assists, he just has to make sure when he catches a ground ball and the pitcher is covering, instead of running over and tagging the bag and getting a put out, if he flips it to the pitcher, he'll get an assist on that play. And assists are very important to fielders. It really helps your fielding percentage and all that stuff. Does that make sense to you, Jeff?
Yeah, as long as you're involved in it, it's like hockey, right? Like you can kind of be involved in a couple passes in, which is neat.
All right. Now, I want to open this up to you, Jeff, and to our listeners and viewers and our loyal followers here, okay? Baseball is the only sport that I know of where you can get an assist on a play even though an out is not made, okay? So you're the third baseman, Jeff. A routine ground ball to you. You throw a perfect strike to me at first base, and I drop the ball, which, by the way, I would not drop the ball if you threw it, Jeff, okay? Now, maybe if Aurelio Rodriguez or Matt Chapman threw it across the diamond, I might miss it, but I will not miss it, and I will not drop it if you throw it. But the scoring on that play, Jeff, is assist 5, error 3. So the thinking there is that a third baseman, in this case, should not get punished because the first baseman dropped an easy throw from third base. My question to you, Jeff, is do you think that's correct, that it should be this way, that it scored an assist 5 and an error 3? Should you get an assist when no out is made?
No, what I'm asking. I honestly think at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is that baseball doesn't punish people for others' mistakes, right? Like, reached on an error, unearned runs. Like, there's so many ways that pitchers are saved from mistakes of others, right? That's kind of the way, or sacrifice fly, right? Just because you got an out, but you did a job, so you don't get a plate appearance there. Or an at-bat, excuse me. You get a plate appearance, not an at-bat. So I think baseball is very forgiving of making sure that mistakes or things are compensated for in some way. Does that make sense? It's not a surprise that happens.
Right. But, John Stockton makes a perfect pass to Karl Malone, who misses a dunk when it's an easy shot. He doesn't get an assist for that. When, Tom Brady, kind of my old, Tom Brady makes a perfect pass to someone on his team who drops it. That's an incomplete pass. He doesn't get credit for that, but baseball does. And I just find it interesting. I'm wondering if anyone else out there thinks, well, you didn't make it out on the play, therefore you should not get an assist.
The count is now up to 2 of 90s and 80s basketball players you have referenced on this podcast. We got Kembe Mutombo, John Stockton, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a Michael Jordan reference at some point today, too, because I know what your team Tim is, because I looked ahead on the rundown. But, so you can make it 3, but, bringing Tom Brady into there, and I get it, Dad. Like, I'm not into the weeds on football, so I might get in trouble for this, but I've always felt that there are interceptions that are the quarterback's fault, and there are interceptions that are the wide receiver's fault. You ever see an interception? This happened to the former Redskins, me growing up all the time. Wide receivers like this, it hits him right in the hands. It's perfect pass. He fumbles it, and it goes into a hand of a defender, and that's an interception. That should not be the quarterback's fault. He hit him right where he needed to go. So maybe there's a stat that they've created, but like when a guy says, oh, yeah, he had 3 interceptions. Well, okay. All 3 of them, 2 of them were like complete and total not on him. He threw a perfect pass. It just was bad luck. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Right. I'm with you, Jeff. That's very good. All right. Our first birthday is 1957. DeWayne Buice was born, Jeff. And DeWayne Buice was a reliever for the Angels. And I think I've told you this story before, Jeff, but he made his debut in the major leagues in 1987 for the Angels. And I was in the Angels clubhouse while covering the Orioles, and someone whispered to me, knowing that I love Get Smart. And he said, DeWayne Buice does a great impersonation of Maxwell Smart. So I went up to DeWayne Buice. I've never met him before in my life. He just got to the big leagues. I think he only pitched like 3 years in the big leagues. So I told him, I'm the greatest Get Smart fan ever. Maxwell Smart is the greatest sitcom character ever. I'm told you do an impersonation. And then he gladly gave me a great impersonation of Maxwell Smart. How about that?
Dad, I'm sure you were freaking out. What is your impression of Maxwell Smart? What line would you say?
Well, it's so funny you would say that, because I think his most famous line is the one that DeWayne Buice left me with when I was walking away. All right, he gave me all these impersonations, and I'm walking away after thanking him, and he goes, "Would you believe?" And that's one of the. So it's like that was his put away song as his put away line when I'm leaving. Would you believe?
Would you believe?
Oh God, it was so. DeWayne Buice. All right. Also on this date, Mark Langston was born 1960. Mark Langston was a really good pitcher. He won 179 games, Mariners and Angels mostly. Led the league in strikeouts 3 times. And Jeff, I love this story from Buck Showalter. I love all stories from Buck Showalter, but I talk to you all the time about the different levels in athletics. Like you're a good high school basketball player, and then a Division I college player shows up, and you recognize, oh my goodness, there's
it's a different
the next
world.
level.
Right? Absolutely.
It's a different world. It's like a scratch golfer, and now suddenly he's in a foursome with 3 great tour players. It's a different game. So Buck Showalter told me that Mark Langston provided that moment for him as a minor league player. The first time he faced Mark Langston, he saw that slider. So that's a left-hander on left-handed slider.
Right, yep.
And Buck Showalter went, okay, there it is. There's the next level. I have to learn how to hit that if I'm going to get to the big leagues. I mean, like only Buck Showalter would recognize that moment as this is a seminal point in my career. I need to know. Now I've seen this pitch from Mark Langston. I have to learn how to hit that. Otherwise, I might not be getting to the big leagues. Does that sound like Buck Showalter to you, Jeff?
I mean, is it an episode of our show if Buck doesn't have a story in it? He's been around the game so much. He's been a guest a number of times. He always has something good. And you're right. But I love game recognized game, right? Players come. This is why you don't just go to the majors, right? You go to the minors because players you're seeing pitchers that are so much better than anything you've ever seen. Listen, I'm not saying a shooting guard. Oh, here we go. I'm not saying a shooting guard out of high school is, now facing defenders he's never faced before, right? But I'm not saying Chris Paul, who drops 80 in high school in honor of his grandfather, isn't dropping 80 in college. I mean, he's a great NBA player. But the point is the levels are different because it's the greatest one-on-one sport of all time. It's me against you, you against me to start every play, pitcher and batter. And if the pitchers, especially these days, are that good, you've never seen a slider, fastball, changeup, knuckle curve, whatever it is, quite like that in your career.
So Mark Langston was dear friends, but maybe still is, with Bruce Hornsby, one of my all-time favorite musicians, singers. Again, I know nothing about music, Jeff, but I know who Bruce Hornsby is. And I met him before the Cal Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig game at Camden Yards. It was really, really cool. But one night when the Angels in the 80s were in Baltimore, after the game, they all went out to dinner after a Saturday afternoon game. And after the game, they went back to the hotel, and there was a piano in the hotel lobby. And Bruce Hornsby, who was in the prime of his career, just sat down and started playing the piano and singing in the lobby of a hotel. I mean, how cool is that? And people were like crowding around because those who didn't know him, and I'm sure most did, realize this guy is great. Pretty cool. I've seen you do that, Jeff. I'm amazed how good you are at that, Jeff. All kidding aside, I've seen you command a room, getting on a piano, singing and playing. I have no idea how you can possibly do that, being my son. But imagine Bruce Hornsby in his prime showing up in the lobby of a downtown hotel in Baltimore and just jamming for 2 hours. Incredible, right?
It's the coolest thing ever. I mean, that was what I told my piano teacher at age 10. I want to be able to go to a bar and play for my friends. And he, being a good Christian man, had to ask mom and dad, okay, why is your son thinking about playing at a bar at age 10? But nonetheless, it's a dream. Right. And if you cornered Bruce Hornsby, the first thing you would say is, hey, you did a really good job out there. Have you ever heard of Roger Hornsby? So he played baseball many years ago, second base, Hall of Famer. He did this 401 season. Would have had to ask him about Roger Hornsby.
Yeah. I did shake his hand after, he did the national anthem or before, and he has gigantic hands, Bruce Hornsby, as do I, but mine aren't close to being as big as his. And I asked him, does this really help you with the piano? And he goes, you have no idea. I can get to keys and that others can't because my hands are so big.
Yeah.
And you appreciate that, right, Jeff? Because
it helped me massively playing piano growing up as a kid to have big hands, honestly. Because I saw kids who couldn't reach certain things, and it made playing music a lot harder for them. The Alphabest, letter V. Dad, what do you have for us? Let's start with our position player.
Right. Now, I strongly consider Joey Votto, who I think will be a Hall of Famer someday. He's one of the best contact hitters I've ever seen. He's one of the best hitters I've ever seen. He was an on-base machine, and he will be deservedly in the Hall of Fame someday. But I'm going to go with Archie Vaughn, who, according to a lot of people's statistical measures, is one of the 5 greatest shortstops ever. Lifetime .318 hitter. Hit .385 for the Pirates in 1935, finished third in the MVP twice, and he was a really good defensive player. So I think I told you this story, Jeff. In Derek Jeter's last season, he asked me in spring training, he said, can I ask you something? And he'd never asked me anything like this before. And he goes, who is Archie Vaughn? Because when Jeter in his last spring was starting to be compared to the greatest shortstops of all time, and dopes like me would mention Archie Vaughn, and Derek Jeter being the most respectful man in the world, especially of people who came before him, just didn't know enough about Archie Vaughn. So I gave him a quick thumbnail sketch on who Arky Vaughan was. So now the next time, if anyone ever asked him about him, he could say, yeah, he played in the 30s, Pirates, Dodgers. And Arky Vaughan, by the way, Jeff, this is terrible. He died at age 42. He drowned during a fishing trip. How about that?
Terrible.
But he was a great player. Enough of that. All right. And our greatest V pitcher, I considered Dazzy Vance, but I'm settling on Justin Verlander, who is going to retire at the end of the season. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Rookie of the Year, 3 Cy Youngs, MVP, won the Triple Crown of pitching, won 266 games, 626 winning percentage, 3,554 strikeouts. And you take those, just those last 3 numbers, wins, winning percentage, and strikeouts. He's in a 4-man group. It's him, Roger Clemens, Tom Seaver, Randy Johnson. That's it. That's a ton of strikeouts. That's a lot of wins. And that's a pretty darn high winning percentage. That's who Justin Verlander's career, and that's why I chose him as my V for the Alphabest. Arky Vaughan, Justin Verlander. And there weren't a whole lot of choices, Jeff. Not a whole lot of choices.
But, for not a lot of choices, really good.
To take nothing away from Hall of Famer Arky Vaughan and soon-to-be Hall of Famer Justin Verlander.
3 cards in the bathroom, Dad. What do you got for us?
Okay, one of my favorites, Craig Biggio, Hall of Fame second baseman, of course. And Jeff, as you remember, 3,000 hits. As you remember, Craig Biggio used to be a catcher. And then after the 1991 season, after several years as a catcher, they moved him to second base, which was still one of the strangest moves I've ever seen. Catcher to second base. He never looked like a catcher to me because even though he was really strong, he was not a real big guy. He looked more like a second baseman to me than a catcher. So when he moved, Jeff, the Elias Sports Bureau came up with this stat that the only other player to that point in Major League history that had ever played 100 games at second base and 100 games behind the plate was a guy named Tom Daly, who played from 1887 to 1903.
Wow.
So when Craig Biggio made the move and then immediately played like 162 games at second base, and only one other guy had done that. And the word on Tom Daly was he had a weak throwing arm. One reason they moved him to second base. And according to stories, he routinely would throw the ball to first base. After catching the ball at second, he would throw it underhand to first base.
Oh, that's so funny.
Just doesn't sound like a second baseman to me, but he played in the 1800s, Jeff. We'll give him a break there. All right, number 2 is one of your favorites, Brandon Marsh of the Phillies, who's had a very good year. He's a really fun and interesting guy. I remember asking him if, how much football did he play in high school? He said, "Oh, I love football. I was a wide receiver and I was a defensive back." And I said, "So you love to hit people?" And he goes, "Yeah, I love to hit people." And then he said, "And I love to get hit too." And that's when you got a football player. Like he would go across the middle and get smoked, and he kind of liked it, which kind of brings me to the story I wrote a month ago about how the hit by pitch rate is up in the major leagues. Right. And Scott Bradley, the former Princeton baseball coach, told me that, Tim, it's a thing now in high school and in college to just wear it. Meaning a curveball is coming near you, just stick your shoulder out or your leg out, get hit by a pitch, get on first base, and help your team win. So I was talking to a bunch of players in the major leagues about wearing it. And Brandon Marsh said, if Mason Miller is pitching and you just want to wear it, he said, you are just stupid if you want to do that. That's how hard Mason Miller throws. Agree, Jeff?
Yeah. A lot of those players these days, wearing 93 and wearing 103, I can't say I've been hit by either, but both sound terrible, but one sounds a whole lot worse.
Yeah, 103 in the middle of the back is going to leave a mark for a long time.
No, thank you.
Okay, last one is Yurubio Durazo, who was a pretty darn good power hitter, mostly for the Diamondbacks during his time. And Jeff, I've talked to you about this. I'm always fascinated by body parts, big hands, small hands, long legs, things like that. Durazo had really short arms, much like Will Smith, the catcher of the Dodgers. That's one of his great strengths as a baseball player. He's got these really short arms where, we were talking about Dikembe Mutombo, on a pitch inside. How's he going to get those really long arms through the ball? You brought it up. But somebody with really short arms can get to that pitch a whole lot easier because his arms are short and he won't get jammed, and he can get that bat head through that ball on the inside part of the plate. And Buck Showalter used to tell me, he managed Durazo in Arizona. He said when Rubio would walk in, people would ask him, is that a long sleeve shirt or a short sleeve shirt that you have on? Because his arms were so short, it was a little bit confusing. Short arms on a really big guy like that was a little bit odd. So those are the 3 cards in the bathroom for today.
How are you not going to point out the obvious on your final card, Dad?
What?
What is significant about his name?
Yurubio. Oh, all the vowels in his last. Yurubio Durazo. Way to go,
his
Jeff.
Full name, all the vowels, A-E-I-O-U, in all of those. And you know who else has that? Bodie Kurkjian.
Hey, that is. You've told me that before. How could I have forgotten that? That is so great.
A-E-I-O and U. McKinley came close. If you add her middle name, she does have all the vowels in her name. Jeffrey Kurkjian, no, I'm lacking it. I don't have the O in the Patrick either. Timothy Kurkjian, you've got Jeff, it. No, you don't have the E. Timothy Bell, you got that. Right. So should I just shout out more legal names, or are we good?
No, I need to bring up something that I never bring up when I can't prove something. You never bring it up unless you're absolutely certain, but it's not my note. But somebody sent a note to me on, is this a great game or what? And don't take it for fact because it may be wrong, but I'm not sure. He said, I've read somewhere that William Contreras of the Brewers, their catcher, is the only guy to make the All-Star team, and he's got All-Star in his name. William Contreras.
Can't confirm. My head hurts too much to do that.
Right.
But he has All-Star
in his name. Now, Jeff, I had no time to give this any thought, but we were playing around with stupid names. So that one, we got to look it up.
Here's your assignment. You need to make an anagram with William Contreras, and All-Star needs to be on it. Okay?
Right. Well, yes.
You could use the C. Contreras C, All-Star C. I don't know. I'm gonna let you sit with that. Okay.
Right.
All right, Dad. Final segment of the day. It's your Team Tim and a special one. Tell us from your words a little bit about what we're doing this Saturday and who Michael Brown is.
Right. At in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, at 2:00 on Saturday, we are going to do a fundraiser for Michael Brown. I lost my brother Matt to ALS 3 years ago. Your beloved Uncle Matt, and we are going to try to help the Brown family. So we're going to have a sit down. It's going to be like a podcast, only we're just going to take questions from the audience, and we're just going to talk baseball and Michael Brown and whatever anyone wants to talk about in Pottstown, Pennsylvania on Saturday. And all proceeds will go to the Brown family because, trust me, I know this. When you have ALS, the costs are just enormous, and any help that we can give. So as a tribute to Michael Brown, who will be there, love Michael Brown, I came up with the all Michael team in Major League history. Now, I only have one little fudge here, but there are a lot of players, I think I counted like 70 to 75, who actually go by the name of Michael, okay? So our catcher is Michael Barrett, who was pretty good with the Expos and for some other teams. Michael Bush, first baseman for the Cubs. Michael Massey, who plays a lot of second base for the Royals. Michael Kadire, one of my favorite players ever, Twins, Rockies. We're going to play him at third base, even though he played a bunch of times in the outfield. He's the guy, Jeff, I told you, Michael Kadire is a magician, like an amateur, but he's beyond amateur. He did some card tricks that were so amazing. He showed John Kruk and I on the ESPN bus tour a magic trick that was so dazzling. It was breathtaking. I could not figure out how he did it. So I've told this story before, but Luis Rodriguez joined the Twins one year, and he was sitting right next to Michael Kadire. That's where his locker was. And Kadire, trying to make in his first spring with the Twins, showed him a magic trick that was good, that it scared Luis Castillo. He thought like Michael Kadire, the third baseman, is like a sorcerer or something like that. So the next day, when Michael Kadire got to the ballpark in spring training, Luis Castillo had moved his locker to the other side of the room because he didn't want to sit next to a sorcerer.
Right.
Have I told you that story before?
Only a couple times on the pod, Dad, but we love it. We always love that Michael Kadire story.
Okay, our shortstop is Michael Young, who is also a really good second baseman. We're going to play him at short because he played both. Very underrated player for the Rangers. We have a bunch of outfielders: Michael Brantley, Michael Conforto, Michael Harris the second. And we have Mike Brown, whose real first name is Michael. So we're going to go with Michael Brown as our third outfielder. He went by Mike, but his real first name is Michael. And since this is a tribute to Michael Brown, we had to have a Michael Brown on the all Michael team. Agreed with that?
Very smart.
Okay, and Michael Wacha is one pitcher. Michael Lorenzen, who nearly pitched a no-hitter did pitch a no-hitter, but nearly did it on McKinley Hope's birthday, correct?
Typical, Dad. Typical. My birthday he did it on my birthday, which
Your
was
birthday.
McKinley Hope's birthday the day before. So great. Right. Yeah. We were watching that as my wife had an epidural in her back. And I said, just hold on, babe. There's one out. And one out in the top of the ninth. Hold on. Yeah, Michael Lorenzen. Right.
Pretty good. And Michael Kopech, who at one point threw 100 miles an hour. Our general manager is going to be Gene Michael, who's also our manager. Love Gene Michael's stick. What a great man, a great baseball man. And Jeff, all right, you've already figured it out. Who is our honorary baseball player on the all Michael team?
Michael Jordan.
Right. And Michael Jordan played 1 year in the minor leagues for the Birmingham Barons. I've told 100 stories, but I'm going to tell this one again. They come home from a road trip. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player, maybe of all time at this point, but now he's playing baseball, and Tito Francona is his manager. The bus pulls up to the parking area at the hotel and all that stuff, and there's an outdoor court there. And all the players on the outdoor court recognize this is the Jordan Cruiser, and Michael is getting off the bus. So they start to egg him on. Come on over, old man, or whatever they were saying. Come on over and play. And Jordan got so upset that these guys were taunting him that he found 4 of the coaches on the Birmingham Barons and said, we're going to go play those guys. And Tito Francona, who's the manager of the team and who is in charge of protecting Michael Jordan against everyone and everything, said, we are not going over there to play basketball. And Jordan said, yes, we are. So he picks up Tito and, like 3 trainers or another coach, and they go over there and start to play these guys. And these guys can all play, all right? They're not shooting their mouth off unless they can play. So on the first time down the floor, the pavement, Tito Francona sets a screen for Michael Jordan, which is, and Jordan looks at Tito and goes, what the hell are you doing? Like, do you really think I need a screen to get past this guy and get to the rim? What are you, crazy? So, of course, he gets past this guy. He dunks on him, and the game gets really chippy. It gets really angry, and Jordan is ready to go. And, he, bends the rim, literally bends the rim, and it's now close to being a time where there's going to be a fight. And Tito, calls the whole game off and says, that's it, we're done, and pulls Jordan off the court before he gets hurt by, playing basketball in the middle of a baseball season. Does this sound like Michael Jordan to you? And more important, does this sound like Tito Francona to you?
No doubt. Greatest teammate ever there, Tito Francona. I love that story, Dad. And the all-Michael team. Did you get your DH in, Michael Brantley? Did you say that? I think.
Yeah, I had four outfielders / DH.
Oh, got it.
Conforto,
Okay.
Harris the second, Mike Brown, and Michael Brantley. Because
wanted to make sure we got them all in. Yeah,
yes,
Dad,
yes.
excellent
and there
job.
were many. Michael Bourne, I left out. I mean, there are a lot of Michaels I left out. There are a lot of Michaels, but this one is for Michael Brown, our dear friend.
Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Soul Joel's at the Sunnybrook Ballroom, Saturday, August 22nd. Again, you can donate with the link, even if you can't be there, but also tickets are available there as well. So go check it out in the show notes or in the description. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And as always, thanks for being a part of our family.